Good evening. Try that one more time. Good evening. Yeah, that's good. Well, welcome. Today is March 18th, 2019. You have wandered in, either on purpose or by accident, the Rowan County Commission meeting for today, and we are honored to have you here. We hope that you find your time profitable. It's an honor to have you here this evening. So it's the tradition of this board. We do a couple things at the beginning of our meeting. We're going to have the pledge, but then we do something else. We have our chaplain, Chaplain Taylor, will come forward, and we do what's called a solemnizing prayer. A solemnizing prayer is for the commissioners, and what we do here and throughout the week and throughout our time here on the board is we think very important to this community, and so we don't take it lightly. And so we ask the chaplain to come forward and to solemnize this occasion and to pray for wisdom as we make decisions on behalf of the community. So commissioners, if you'll join me, we'll get started.
Lord, we thank for this day that you've provided for us, and we thank for our county commissioners, Lord, and the work they do, Lord, and the dedication they have, Lord. And there's been much preparation done before this meeting that we don't see, and we thank you for them and what they do, Lord. We thank for Rowan County, Lord. We thank for those in attendance tonight, Lord. We pray you'll disguise and lead us, Lord Jesus. And again, thank you for your blessings upon us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chaplain Taylor, as always, for being with us. All right, commissioners, have a couple of adjustments to the agenda on the consent agenda. You have before you a item, Memorandum of Understanding, Rowan County Vietnam Veterans Memorial Project. If we'll add that to the consent agenda under item J. And then also you received a memo from the EDC today about adding a public hearing for Project Kodiak, and we'll add that as item K, if that's okay with all. Can I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any other additions? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. So also on the active agenda, we do have a lot of public hearings today. It's been requested if we would move item number 6, the discussion regarding the change order for I-85 infrastructure casings. If we could move that before our public hearings, that one won't take long. And if so, if you're okay with that, we would make that item 3, and then we would make the public hearing for the home application item 3A. Is that okay with everyone? If so, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so let's see. We have the minutes have been provided for us for the March 4th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then the amended consent agenda is before us. Motion to approve that.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, then we'll move on to public comment. And we have Carla Rose. Carla, we got a packed house for you today for your speaking. So Carla, welcome.
Thank you. I'm the Association Executive for the Salisbury-Rowan Association of Realtors, and we just wanted to stop and say thank you for your continued support and your dedication to the community. And I have a copy of the National Association of Realtors On Common Ground publication for each of you, and just wanted to leave these for you to have. And thank you.
Well, thank you. You could just tell your associates thank you and go sell some houses.
I'll try.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
great. Thank you, Carla. Carla Rose. Here you go. I think the All right, so we'll move on to item number 3, which is item 6 on your tab. Discussion regarding change order for I-85 infrastructure casings. Manager Church.
Chairman Doug, if you could come up. I'll let Doug answer or present any of the technical issues or questions. But basically, as the board knows, some time ago, y'all approved a task for McGill to design and for NCDOT to construct 3 casings underneath. Well, one was underneath I-85 and the other one was underneath the ramps. We've completed 2 of them, and there's one left to be complete. And since we've switched directions, and Kannapolis is now going to be the one providing water, Kannapolis would rather that they construct any future casements. Doug, do you want to add to that, or?
Not necessarily, unless there's any questions. The 2 that have been installed were the ones that were the most critical because they were installed in open cut underneath the proposed interchange. The one that's remaining was going to be a bore and jack that would be done outside of the interstate right-of-way either way. So it would maybe easier to access during the construction now, but it could be accessed later and arguably could go either way price-wise.
So the change order would ask the NCDOT to change the project to limit the scope to just the 2 casements that have already been complete, and we would stop the project and wouldn't go forward with the last casement.
And so this board had voted to move ahead with all 3, so in order to not continue with the 3rd, we would need to change the task order to limit it to the 2 that have been completed.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for Doug or for the manager? All right, then do we have a motion to approve a new task order that would eliminate the 3rd casement that was previously passed?
Second.
Is that adequate?
Yep, that's
okay.
good. Thank
all
you
right, we
very
have a
much.
motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Doug, thank you. It's good to see you. All right, then we'll move on to what now is item 3A. Mr. Muir will be presenting public hearing for fiscal year 19 to 20 home application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has become an annual occurrence for this board and for the county. This application is for participation in the Home Consortium, which Rowan County is a member along with Cabarrus and Iredell. We anticipate receiving about $150,000 in program funds for 1920. We're going to focus exclusively on owner-occupied rehabilitation of single-family homes. There is a match that would be required of the county, and that's 25% of that amount if we do not find other non-federal sources. I would say up until last year, we've been rather lucky in obtaining or finding non-matching funds. So the county, at least to my knowledge, has not had any real direct funding from the general budget to provide this housing assistance to the county residents. So I think it's a small price to pay if we or you elect to adopt this application that will be sent to the consortium. The only recommendation we have will be that the manager be authorized to sign the application, and we'll forward it on to Concord. Again, this is a routine program or project in terms of the process. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But again, you do need to conduct a public hearing. So, any questions?
What is generally the amount per house that you do?
It varies, probably in the $35,000 to $40,000 range. The applicants, the owners, have to be 80% or less of the area median income, and so they're low to moderate income based on the I guess, not necessarily a census designation, but their economic index. And so it's around $35,000 to $40,000 per house.
Is Chantico?
The Salisbury CDC does administer our program for us, and when we set the public hearing at the last meeting, that was one of the items. We've been in a contract with them probably for the last 5 or 6 years, and they've been managing that for us rather well, I think.
So do they handle applications and determine whose house will be remediated?
It does. It is processed through their organization. One thing I will say is that the program only applies to, well, it applies to the entire Rowan County, but it does not apply within the city limits of Salisbury or the city limits of Kannapolis. They receive separate funding as well. So we do work in all the municipalities in Rowan County except for those two.
And you said there were single-family residents,
Yes. Owner occupied.
or occupied
Yes.
single-family
Yep.
residents?
No rentals. Owner lives there.
All right, any other questions for Ed? Thank you, Ed. If not, then what we have to do by law is have a public hearing where if anyone would like to speak about this home application, then now would be the time to do that. So we'll open the floor to public comment. If there isn't any, then we'll close the floor to public comment. And do we have a motion to authorize county manager to sign the 2019-2020 home application?
So moved.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Ed. All right, next item is public hearing for HLC 01-19. Ms. Karen, this is you.
It's my turn.
Your turn.
They assured me that I'd be able to pull up this PowerPoint without any problem, so we'll see if they're right. Here we go.
Well, look at there.
Look at that. And all we need to do is find the, yeah, there we go. Good evening, and thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to present Mount Vernon to you on behalf of the Rowan County Historic Landmark Commission. We feel that this is a very important property, and we hope that you will give it consideration for designation as a Rowan County Historic Landmark. The property was built originally by Jacob Kreider, and in addition to serving as a private home, it was also a grist mill, a store, and a post office for all of the neighbors. Jacob Kreider was from Pennsylvania, but he moved to Rowan County in the early 1800s. And in June of 1820, Jacob, along with Mr. Bingham, established the Western Carolinian, which, of course, was a very strong voice for Western North Carolina as long as it existed up until 1842. At about 1822, Jacob moved his family onto a tract of land in the Scotch-Irish Township that he purchased the year before. The plantation that he established there was called Mount Vernon, and it was adjacent to a grist mill and sawmill that were operated by his father-in-law, who was Daniel Wood. So when Mr. Kreider's wife, when Mr. I'm sorry, when Mr. Kreider's wife's father died, he inherited all that land. And so, I'm sorry, he got it the old-fashioned way, what can I tell you? At any rate, they began to operate the mill, and for the remainder of their lives, they were millers and merchants and planters in the Third Creek community. The property remained in the Kreider family until the death of the builder in 1891, and after that he sold it to the Teague family, and the Teagues, in association with their brother-in-law, Richard Current, continued to operate the mill until the time of the Teagues' death, and at that time Mr. Current purchased the rest of the property. Mount Vernon was nominated and accepted by the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. And at that time, they designated both the house and 4.3 acres. However, the Landmark Commission recommends that we maintain and designate just the main house, the smokehouse, and the barn, which would have been auxiliary properties for a plantation seat like was there. The smokehouse is located a few feet behind the main house, and it was actually built on the foundation of the freestanding kitchen. The barn has undergone many repairs and enlargements over the years. The one that exists right now was probably built in the early 1900s. The Rowan County Historic Landmark Commission recommends that Mount Vernon's main house, the smokehouse, and the barn be included in the local designation that would include approximately 1 acre of the Mount Vernon estate land. And we say 1 acre rather than the 4.3 simply because as once it's designated by the county, there's a certain amount of oversight that's required by the commission, and we feel that that's about as much as we'll be able to control. We have here a picture of the site. Give you an idea of where the location is. The house is significant, the property is significant under the category of architecture because it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, wooden federal-style plantation houses in Rowan County. We feel that the smokehouse and the barn are also significant because they would have been auxiliary structures that would have been commonplace for a plantation seat of that type. And here we have the whereas that you will need to attend to if you choose to designate this as a Rowan County Historic Landmark. If you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Isn't there something unique about the fireplaces on the right-hand side of that
Yes,
house?
it's a double fireplace. They're quite beautiful, and I'm not sure if the pictures were included in your documents, but we had a number of pictures that were included in our presentation to Raleigh when we sent this property evaluation to them to look for their acceptance as a historic property.
Are folks living there now?
Well, actually, the Currents do still own the property. I don't think that there's anyone living there full-time, though the family does use the property on the weekends for the most part.
All right, any questions for Ms. Karen? All right, if not, then thank you. And,
Thank you.
We'll move on to our public hearing section. So again, we're required to have a public hearing, so we'll open the floor for a public hearing. If anyone has anything that they'd like to contribute to this in any way, now would be the time. All right, seeing none, then we'll close the floor to the public hearing. And do we have a motion to approve HLC 01-19?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Or if not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Karen, for your good work. Appreciate it. Item number 5, Shane. Are we there already? Yeah. All right, item number 5, Shane Stewart, public hearing for Z03-19. Shane, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So probably the reason a lot of the folks are here in the audience today is for this request. This is a hearing for the rezoning consideration, property at 6225 East NC 152 Highway. Property owner Levi Varus, applicant Terramore Development. I think most everybody's familiar with the general location of the property, but if you take a look at the screen, this is on the southeastern corner, Oregon Church and 152, and you see the offset intersection of Faith Road. This is the Siffords community here. Looking at a 2018 aerial photo, this is about an 1.5 acre parcel, and it's outlined in blue here for the property boundary. It's currently zoned rural agricultural, and the proposed zone change would be CBI CD for a 9,100 square foot retail store. So here's a site plan that you have in your packet, and this is the location of the proposed store. Here's 152 Oregon Church, and the proposed entrance here to Oregon Church Road. So one of the things too that's been talked about quite a bit that we'll get into a little bit more is traffic and some discussions with DOT. We do have an approved driveway permit for the request here. It was approved February 14th of 19. And in speaking with DOT, one of the statements made and a condition of the permit is this location at the entrance to 152 remain relatively flat. So there might have to be some built up of the site conditions to maintain that site distance, but it does meet site distance south on Oregon Church. One of the things that changed from the planning board meeting to the current is the applicant decided to offer up a landscape plan. And you have this in your packet too. There's a couple of red maple trees on both frontages, some additional shrubbery around these points, the sign itself. The minimum standard for buffering along the eastern line and southern line is a 20-foot buffer, undisturbed. Previously, they proposed a 6-foot wooden fence. They've come back to propose some Leland cypress trees as well in this location here. These items were intended to address some comments in the land use plan about considering landscaping for new development along Highway 152. Another comment too, or change I should say, in the application. This did not go to the planning board, but applicant decided to address another criteria in the eastern plan with some building facade options for the board to consider. There's 6 here, and generally speaking, you'll see a combination. For example, in this Bessemer City application, this is standing seam metal, hardy plank, and some masonry units. And it does vary in each application, but you see one of those 3 options, or brick here in Beaufort, Georgia. Some of them are very similar, but again, they all have those particular combinations. The applicant wanted the board to see these options and kind of consider each as options for this location here if approved. This is the China Grove store. It doesn't look exactly like this, but it does have the standing seam metal and also it's a little bit lighter colored masonry unit. And of course, again, that addresses one of the comments in the land use plan for considering building appearance, design elements along 152 for highway businesses. So taking a look at the area zoning, you see this red portion here, and here's about 8.5 acres. There's one other for Boss Tune-Up. The rest of the area is all zoned RA. There are a few improvements that are not residential or agricultural. To the north, you see a SR business. It's like a home occupation of sorts. Yard stuff. There's also a trucking location here and also some truck parking south across Siffords oil company. Going out even further to a 1 mile area, you see a little bit more commercial zoning, not much, and then some industrial here for a quarry operation. But all this yellow, again, is rural agricultural. Let's look at a few pictures around the area. In the top left is the existing residence on the Varus property. Going clockwise across the road, 2 stick-built homes on the McCullough property. This is approximately the location of where the proposed entrance would look back, towards Oregon Church. A little bit south of the existing driveway there. And an adjoining manufactured home to the south. In the top left, this is looking back east, a manufactured home and also a stick-built home right in front of that borders 152. Looking back along the frontage at 152 east back towards Rockwell. And across the street on the north side is the Morton property, single-family home, and the truck parking. And on the lower image is looking back at the intersection. So in terms of the land use plan, you see on the map here we're in Area 3. This blue dot represents a community node, and specifically the Siffords community node for Faith Road and 152. A couple of the comments for community nodes. One, it references commercial uses that support the existing population need, and one example being a convenience store, to serve that need. On the highway business recommendations, it's also in a quarter for 152, a highway quarter overlay. And we talked about the landscaping plan and the building appearance, addressing these criteria here. This is a comparison of the current zoning district, the RA, and what would be permitted. It's pretty easy when you consider a conditional district. It allows one thing, and the one thing is this store. Everything else is not permitted. And you see the comparison. In the current zoning, most of these with the SR acronym is a home occupation where you're allowed to do quite a few things in the RA district. Talk a little bit about traffic here. You see this map, the current counts and also the highest counts dating back to 2002 captured by DOT. Highway 152 currently has 7,700 vehicle trips along this portion of 152. The point location taken on Oregon Church is a little over a mile away, but is still at 3,200. So definitely quite a bit of traffic coming through that intersection. On the left-hand side, you see some capacity numbers here from the CTP, which again, anytime you see these figures from staff, this is from the plan, which is a very generalized number based on the speed limit, the width of lane, and the number of lanes. And it's put in, it doesn't have any other qualifiers to it. But you see the numbers here well above what the current traffic count is. From the ITE manual from 2003, a freestanding discount store would generate about 510 trips on average per day. And keep in mind, a trip is leaving from one location and arriving to a spot, and then the opposite of that is a second trip. Accident data. We have on the top a map from DOT, information that we picked up and identified back from Crest Venture Road to Link Street here in Rockwell. These are the number of reported accidents in the DOT accident data log. At the location we're at here is 17 reported, and I included traffic count data for 152 and also the intersecting street, being that that's a factor in the consideration of accidents along with other things, but the highest crash rate was over here at Old Concord Road at 27. And locally, since we have a real good 911 staff that's able to collect some information and we can use it to create, well, how many accidents occurred that may not have been reported to DOT. I will say on the top, this is a 5-year period, so this is 6 years for the 911 calls, but we had 38 accidents at that intersection from January 1st, 13 to the 3rd on this year in January.
at that intersection?
Yes, sir. This just focused,
Section, wasn't it? That's a mile or so, 2 miles?
good point. So I should have pointed out that 38 accidents were right at this intersection here within about 600 feet either direction on 152. The other gave you a broader sense of what's going on along that stretch of what DOT reported, not 911 calls.
So you're saying some of the accidents may have been coming off Faith Road and not off Oregon? 600 feet, is that what you're saying? Or?
They should not have, but it's possible if they occurred just, barely on the Faith Road section, they'd be captured as an intersection accident, but it wasn't hundreds of feet up Faith Road or Oregon Church. As with,
I'm sorry. So 17 accidents within that 4-year period. That rate, is that a lot or kind of normal? I know that's an EMS question.
well, that's one of the things. It was very difficult to try to get any true comparison. Is this high or low? So the best I could come up with is looking at all the other intersections and give you an idea that, for example, Castor Road, Shooping Mill. If you look at Shooping Mill with 610 cars, Castor 1,700, and the fact that at that location here we had 7,000 cars at 152, there were 13 there relative to the amount of traffic at Faith, being 3,600, Oregon Church 32, and then 7,700. Alignment has something to do with it, clearly. You go over here to Old Concord, it's signalized, more traffic, more accidents, so it's kind of a given, but we hope this helps some.
Yeah, it does.
And with our public notices, obviously folks got the letters or saw the sign or word of mouth spread, so this is the standards for a rezoning, and notice went in the Salisbury Post as well. The Planning Board did recommend approval unanimously. They offered statements of reasonableness and consistency I'll touch on in a minute. One of the things too for our motions, just like with any other, you can approve, deny, table. You can approve with conditions. This is definitely one where anything that you hear that you feel like could be a good condition that the applicant would also mutually agree and work together on, that could be considered in the motion. Lastly, we've rarely done this, but the board, if the board chose to approve the request, you can conditionally approve it if you need more information back and need to see that revised site plan, for example. It can be done within 45 days, not be a new hearing, if that's something the board wants to consider. Your statements are on page 5 of the staff report. Any questions?
How far from the intersection with 152 are those driveways going to be? I know you showed us on the map, but.
The location from this entrance back all the way to 152, I'm not certain of the exact number.
250 feet? And does DOT have any future plans for 152 as far as widening or upgrading at all?
So I failed to include that too. The board, if you recall back, 2 months ago, the resolution of support for a new study and hopefully rectifying this intersection to get it to align properly. That is a decision the board made along with Airport Parkway and other things that we would like that studied. When that will happen, we don't know.
So that's a request to DOT?
for consideration as a priority. Whether it gets funded, that's another question.
And then what's the speed limit along there?
Oregon Church,
Well, Oregon Church and 152,
45.
both ways.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Shane?
I do have one more. Shane, I'm sorry. I'm full of questions tonight. How many accidents does an intersection have to have before DOT will consider putting lights in?
I'm not sure if, accidents is part of it. I'm sure fatalities is even more of a part of it. But largely, it's going to be traffic count.
Okay.
Sometimes it seems like problems need to occur before it rises to a problem on their end, but it's really difficult to say.
Okay, thanks.
Can you put it back on your data slide with the accidents that you compiled?
Yes, sir.
Yep, that one.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd just like to point out too, on the 911 call log, we work with 911 staff here. You may get multiple people calling about an accident, and you really got to look in and determine how many of those were actually an event. And as best we can tell, we come up with this number of 38 as being a true representation of what occurred. Accident with injury, property damage, anything in that nature.
James, how close is this property to face EJT?
I would think it's probably about 1.5 miles. That'd be
That far?
a guess.
Out, okay. So the other businesses that are on the other side of the road were never, they were there before any kind of county zoning came about?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
So to be clear on this chart, Old Concord Road, traffic flowing through that intersection, the count was 8,900. The intersecting road, I'm sorry, that's 152 at that intersection. The intersecting road is Old Concord Road, and traffic is basically 6,300, splitting the two.
Correct.
And so we're seeing an accident count of 27. So that's what you're saying there.
Yes, sir.
8,900 on 152, 6,200 intersecting that.
Correct.
And we've seen 27 accidents, and that's in the last 6 years. Okay, so then Oregon Church Road, there would be 7,700 at the intersection flowing past Oregon Church Road, with 3,200 coming from Oregon Church Road, producing 17 accidents. Is that the way we're?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the top is 5 years. This is the 911 call, which is 6 years.
Gotcha.
And then if you go up to Faith Road, then it jumps up to 3,600?
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the traffic, when I showed this point here, this point on Faith Road is 1.5 miles. So it's probably close to that Faith ETJ area. Oregon Church is 1 1/8 mile down. This is the actual point location for these. The others are off the screen.
And these are daily traffic counts.
Average, right.
Okay. All right, would you go back and just leave that one for
Sure.
us? All right, any other questions for Shane? Shane, thank you. All right, so we're to the the public hearing part. And so we're going to gavel in for public hearing. We don't have a time frame set really for public hearing, so it's not like our public comment at the beginning of the meeting where you get 3 minutes. Just be mindful that we have folks here. And we have really one requirement, one ask. You just be nice, okay? So if you're not nice, we'll tell you you're not being nice. So we want you to be nice on all sides. We're going to tell you that we promise to be nice tonight. And the folks that want to build here are going to be nice, and there's going to be some folks, I guess, who don't want them to build here, and we're going to ask you to be nice. So those are really the only rules we have. So we're going to open the floor for public comment. And I tell you, what we need to do first is we need to have the applicant be able to speak. Is that going to be you, Counselor? Okay. So I'm not going to do the public comment yet, so I'll take that gavel back. So we'll have the applicant go ahead and make any comments. This is the order that we always do it. We'll have them give comments, and then we'll gavel in for public comments. After we're done with that, then if we have any questions that we want to ask folks, we can interact and do that. And then once we're through with all the questions we have, then we'll debate it. And we'll do that here in front of you. So we'll talk to each other and ask any questions of each other we have, and then we'll either make a motion to approve it or deny it or to table it if we feel like we need some more information. Is that fair? Everyone understand where we're going? Okay. So, Counselor.
Good evening. My name is Andy Abramson. I'm an attorney here in Salisbury. I'm here on behalf of the applicant developer in support of the request for the rezoning application. After I speak, I'm going to have Daniel Almazan and Joe Strickland available to speak regarding site-specific matters, design plan, and that sort of thing. I'm really going to focus on the legal aspects of the zoning request as it relates to the county zoning ordinance. And stepping back, we saw that map up there as far as what the current zoning is in the area, and what we have there as far as existing development, and it really is calling for this site to be rezoned to CBI, especially when you look at what is already there. As the board knows, the decision to rezone or not calls for consideration of the county zoning ordinance and focuses on several criteria. Section 21362C has the matters for consideration and takes into account whether the change advances or adversely affects the public health, safety, or welfare. Pursuant to this statute, to the ordinance, there are 4 foundational aspects that the board should look to in making its decision, and they include the relationship to any adopted plans, consistency with requested zoning district purpose, compatibility of all uses within the zoning classification and with other property, and the potential impact on facilities such as roads, utilities, and the schools. First matter that I mentioned is relationship to any existing plans or policies, and as the Commission is aware, in 2012, predecessor Commission adopted the land use plan and sectioned off the county into different zones. This, as Shane pointed out, is Area 3. And also, as noted by Shane, in Area 3, it specifically addresses future land use, and it states in the land use plan that there should be a mix of uses which would be encouraged near the various community nodes. And there are, in the entire Area 3, the eastern portion of the county, there are only 7 community nodes, and those are those blue dots that you see represented on the map. And one of those 7 community nodes was specifically referenced as Sifford's intersection. It's called that because Sifford Oil, and there's a gas station right there, are immediate neighbors to the property. In the county plan, it specifies that these community nodes, like Sifford's intersection, are appropriate for commercial uses that support the existing population's need for retail goods and services. And this is directly from the land use plan. It states that examples include, but are not limited to, convenience stores, gas stations, office space, and retail service businesses, which is precisely what the board has in front of it for consideration this evening. So when you look to existing land use, our existing land use plan, this falls squarely on the head. The second factor for for consideration is the consisting with the requested zoning district purpose. CBI, as defined, allows for a wider range of commercial businesses and light industrial activities. We are talking about retail space in this particular rezoning application. It's conditioned, it's CBI, but it's conditioned specifically to retail. We're not talking about every having it open to Pandora's box of everything that could fall under CBI. The ordinance in describing CBI says the district is typically for more densely developed suburban areas, major transportation corridors, and community crossroads. That's why the land use plan identifying this spot identified it to be one of these important community nodes, because you have this major intersection of 152 and Oregon Church Faith Road. There's already tremendous commercial use in the area, with across the street, and we'll see some slides in a second, you've already seen some from Shane, you've got gas stations, you've got trucking warehouses, you've got beauty supply, you've got battery supply stores, all in this particular, across the street there's the yard stuff business, all these sorts of things in this area which are already commercial in use. Slide to Shane. Whoop. Okay. Just looking at some of the photographs of what we have in the area, this is directly across the street. This is the yard stuff commercial business. Cross and over, this is a pantry and thrift shop. This is directly across the street as well. You can see the trucking facility across the way. This is just a close-up of it. Sifford's Oil, this is across the street on the Faith Road side of the intersection. This is the beauty supply, which is also has attached to it a battery supply store, and there's some auto repair on the other side of that. And there's another shot of the property. And then this is sort of a vacant area next to that structure that you just saw with some trucks and trailers being parked there. And then here's the gas station at the corner, Sifford's Oil. The third of the four matters for consideration under the ordinance are the compatibility of all of the uses within the zoning district, classification with other properties in the vicinity. Again, because this is narrowly tailored to just a retail space, that's really the only thing to consider. Is this proposed retail use consistent with what we have here? And I think these photographs speak volumes to that. Lastly, the last factual legal matter for consideration is the impact that the proposed use would have on facilities such as roads, utilities, and schools, and that forth, and so forth. This is not going to have any dramatic drain on schools or the utilities. The issue regarding the roads has been discussed at great detail. The DOT was out to this site on multiple occasions to assess it and determine whether or not it would be sufficient to support in the place that they wanted to have the driveway, and the driveway permit has in fact already been issued. So DOT has taken all of this into consideration and given their approval for it. Taking all of that into consideration, we strongly would encourage the board to review the application for rezoning favorably. I would just like to reserve on behalf of the applicant some rebuttal time to the extent I feel it's warranted after there's after the public comment, if that's possible.
Anything from anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Daniel Amazon. Our office address is at 210 Clumac Road here in Salisbury. I'm with Terramore Development. Terramore Development is a preferred developer for Dollar General stores. We've completed over 400 stores, been in business about 15 years. The corporate office is in Thomasville, Georgia, but we do stores in Florida as well as North Carolina. This site, I know sometimes we get questions about why do they choose this site. There are many times where the Dollar General as a company specifies specific properties based on the traffic counts and the rooftops, and then in other cases, us as developers will specify a site, and this is one of those locations that we saw it as an opportunity that was underserved, good spacing, obviously traffic count, which sometimes can be a touchy subject. But in this case, it was a key intersection for us and a good location. I think that whenever we looked at the parking and the entrance, we did put that application to DOT. They reviewed it. They came out and walked it. And so we're satisfied now that we've got a driveway permit that at least as much as can be, we've satisfied DOT's concerns. We've had situations where that they've requested us to put in medians, right in, right out only. Even wanted us to widen, certain locations. So they did not request for us to make any additional improvements. So we're satisfied that we've met that criteria. I'm going to be here to answer any questions. I do want to introduce Joe Strickland, who's the operations manager for the North Carolina office as well. At this point, I value your time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Amazon?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Now we'll open the floor for public comment. So what we'll have you do is, I don't care if you raise your hand or just, we're not real formal that way, just come forward one at a time. State your name and your address, and then tell us what's on your mind. So come on forward. Come on. So we're recording, so we can play this back for the general public. So if you could pull, Carolyn, yeah, Carolyn will help you with that.
And I'm pretty new on this, so forgive me if I run into stuff. I wrote something down because the initial 3 minutes from last meeting kind of got me flustered. But first, I'd like to address two things that the lawyer said.
Pull this down just a little bit so we can get you.
How about that?
Name and address.
Okay, Justin Smart. I live at 225 Oregon Church Road.
And it's Smart?
Yes, S-M-A-R-T.
Mr. Smart, welcome. Thanks.
Well, thank you. I will be able to see the building out of my bedroom. You know, we're very close to the intersection. It was stated that the speed limit right there is 45. One of the pieces of paperwork I turned in was a recent DOT traffic report for 24 hours based on numbers and speed just for that day. It was a Wednesday, and it was stated that the posted speed limit was 55, not 45. So somewhere close to the intersection in question, it is 55. The second point was the community node. They're arguing for the building, which could be looked at that way, but they use the word need. The community node serves the needs. Well, that's an opinion. Dollar General thinks yes. A lot of people think no. The other set of paperwork that was turned in was a local petition, just word of mouth and maybe a little social media. More than 470 signatures from the area. They put name and address. They were homeowners or residents of the county. And with little effort, that many people wanted to sign. So we just kind of put it out there and it took off. But I'll go ahead and read what I wrote so I don't waste any time. I'd like to discuss the recent traffic report. Yeah, covered that. Couple of points on the traffic report. 57% of the northbound traffic was cited as speeding, excess of 55. And again, that's towards the intersection. 81 of the total count going northbound and southbound were found to be going 75 miles an hour or over. That doesn't sound very safe. And during the count, 150 tractor trailers were measured. There was a GMR sensor about the size of an iPad placed. I looked up the serial number and saw what equipment was used, but it measures the length of the vehicle. So it knows the difference between a school bus and a tractor trailer. I personally spoke to the Division 9 engineer, Mr. J.P. Couch. He said that a traffic light would probably never be installed there because of the fact that 152 would have to be shut down for 2 full cycles. So, and even if on the very off chance that they needed one because of it was just a catastrophic failure, a lot of fatalities, the money needs to be there, so it would be at least a year, probably more, for them to rectify any situation that arose. I'm still jumping around. Okay, a fresh building facade. They decided maybe upgrade the building. They could have done this for all the ones they previously built, but they recognized that there might be some opposition here, so they're giving us something. That's the way it feels. And that doesn't, a pretty new outside doesn't do anything for the multitude of negative comments about how the insides end up looking and how they're run. Even the ones close by. Another thing, close to my last point, was the needs of the community are already met with countless other businesses and locally owned, largely businesses. There's 2 other Dollar Generals, you know, one 5 miles one way, one 2 miles, 2.5 miles the other. Family Dollar, Kurt's Variety, multiple gas stations, and a food line. I mean, there's plenty of places to go shop. They use the word need, and I don't need it, and I don't want it. So that'll end me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for coming out today.
Yes, sir.
All right, who's next? Don't be shy.
Good afternoon, Board.
What's your name?
My name is Joanne Mahaffey. I live at 285 Oregon Church Road.
Ms. Mahaffey, thanks for coming.
I appreciate your time. I know a bunch of y'all have been getting emails and letters and phone calls, and, you know, we have to do what we have to do when we feel like we're not being represented right. I brought pictures of the interstate. Y'all want to see how close the road would be to 152 and how close their driveway would be to there. You can't see over the hill to see it, so y'all can look at them. Some of them I wrote on the back where the intersection was. It is a dangerous intersection. I have a young'un back here that's not been driving very long, and I am totally afraid for her to pull out down there. They come flying down the road. I cannot see it over my driveway when we pull out on Oregon Church Road because there's a hill there. If you pull out, you better have a lead foot, because if you don't, I've been almost hit. I've been almost run over 3 times because they're flying down that hill. We contacted the place that did this, put that strip out there, or little counter thing, and he said it was not a good intersection or a good road. There's no place to pull off. There's no, if you run off the road, you're just off the road, and if you don't know how to correct, you're in trouble. We, as a community out there, we're small. We don't look for much. That's the reason we moved to the county, moved to the country. My young'un likes to look at stars. We like to sit outside and hear the frogs holler. We like to hear the crickets hollering. And you keep putting lights and stuff out there, and you want to take it all away. And Dollar General's come up and says, oh, we can go, our lights won't bother you, won't be but 4 lights. Okay, fine, I'll agree with that. There's 4 parking lights. Not counting the big old Dollar General sign that's on each side of the building that's got Lane Street lit up like a ball field. So go by Lane Street at night and look at it. It is a very dangerous road. You know, I wish y'all would take in consideration to go out there and look at it. But if you pull on the road, you better be ready to go. When you're coming out onto 152 off of Oregon Church Road, you got to look for 152. And people just flying. It's a 45 miles on, people. Slow down. Well, then you got, here comes Faith Road, and it's a bad curve way you have to see it. It doesn't pull straight up like this where you can look to the right and look to the left. You have to kind of angle it in and then look to make sure nobody's going to slap you. There's been a lot of wrecks there. We just asked you to take in consideration the people out there. You know, we pay our taxes. We don't bother anybody. And I know they tried to do this a couple years ago, put a Dollar General there, and they said because their other store was 2.5 miles away, you couldn't put one that close to it. So here they come trying it again. Well, I don't think it's going to help, because I wouldn't go to it. I would not go to it. I'm afraid some baby's going to get killed down there, and I'd hate to be the one to get to the intersection and have to drag a child out of the car because it's been hit or killed at that intersection. They told me the same thing they told Justin Smart. It is not a place they could put a stoplight because you'd have to hold 152 way up here, one of the other 152 way down here to let people off Faith Road, and then they'd have to change the light to let people off Oregon Church Road, and then you have to open back up 152, and here's all these truckers on it. He said it will not work. He said it's just not able. Faith Road is a little bit down below from us, but if you ever go out that way, you know it's not a, we have motorcycles that I've seen just about get run off the road in the ditches because they're traveling so fast. When you go to check your mail, you better hang on to your mailbox because they'll blow your hair up. And if you got a dress on, you better hold it down because you're going to get blown. There's other people, elderly people that try to get out to their mailbox, and they tell me, said, I cannot get out there to get my mail. And that's a bad situation to live in a property that you're afraid to walk out to the mailbox and get your mail afraid of getting hit because our mailboxes are across the street from our house. We have to cross the road to get to our mailboxes. So we ask you to please take in consideration. Please pray about it. Please talk to your conscience. You know, if it was in your neighborhood and it was such a bad idea, I wouldn't vote for it. If I thought they could make a profit, yep. But that's all they are. So they just for profit. Go look them up on the website and see what their store looks like in Tosco, Oklahoma. That have had them banned from putting any more stores there because they're popping up like popcorn. We got one at Carlson High School and one 2.5 miles down the road from us. If you're too lazy to drive 2.5 miles, you shouldn't be driving. That's just the way I feel about it. You're just too lazy to get up and go get something. So I do thank you for your time, and I do hope and pray that you will take in consideration the people, just like the board. I felt like the board last time let us down because I got to reading their bylaws, what they're supposed to go by. Okay? It says to protect and serve the people of the community, to take in consideration us. I do not think we was taking into consideration. There was people on the board that asked about the same thing, the driveway. If the driveway comes out, can you see over the hill? Well, I went there today, took pictures. You can't see over the hill when you're pulling out of that store where they're going to move that driveway 400 feet. I don't know where that DOT man, and I asked him who bought him off, because I was sitting there and you cannot see over that hill. So when they pull out there, unless they're ready to go, they're going to get hit right there. They said they can't use 152 because 152 is going to become a 4-lane road somewhere down the future. So please take into consideration. You know, we're not a very big community. Rockwell's not very big. We don't need all this out there. If I wanted all these stores, I'd move back to the city and sell mine in a heartbeat. But I like my country. Just don't bring no snakes, rats, or bugs, or spiders, okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your comments. Next.
I'm James Mahaffey. I live at 285 Oregon Church Road. I'm her other half. I'm not going to talk about speed. I'm not going to talk about traffic. Y'all have heard all this time and time again. But one thing these gentlemen are not saying: General Dollar is a chain store. Every commercial property that they have showed on that screen is mom and pop. It's locally owned, it's locally operated. You go in, you know the people by name. Cheeseman's, Steve, you need something done to your car. You go in General, you don't have the money to pay for it or whatever, they'll pat you on the back and say, we'll see you payday. You go in General Dollar, they're not going to do that. We'd like to keep our community mom and pop. The trucking company, it's mom and pop. Yard and stuff, it's mom and pop. You know the people by name. Let's keep it that way, please.
Thank you very much. And if it appears some of us aren't paying attention, we are. Y'all are giving us stuff, so we're studying it, okay? So we're not ignoring you. We don't want to take it and then just not look at it. So we're studying what you give us, so we're not being disrespectful. We're being studious. So who's next?
Name is Michael Bench, live at 2032 Oregon Church Road. A little bit different than some of the other people here. They live across the street within sight distance from it, and I'm aware of that. It could be an eyesore to some, could be a benefit to others. I spent 20 years on Rock Rural Fire Department, so I can, my behalf, state on some of the incidents at the intersection before the change of the intersection, as well as the change after. My family traveled, my wife, myself, and my 2 daughters, age 20 and age 15, travel the road every day, 7 days a week. Like I say, I spent 20 plus years on the fire department. I'm not active now due to, reasons with my business and family. I talked to Chief before. Chief Alan Chris was prior to being Alan Shin as Chief currently now. I talked to him on the way here today because I've just not been out of town, hadn't had time to talk to him. He said since the interchange has took place, well, they redid, I don't know if you're aware of where Faith Road comes out to Oregon Church Road now. It's a distance in between them. He said in the last 3 years, there's been 3 major wrecks that had to be some type of transport through EMS. I know Shane had with all the call logs, those may be bump ups that were just very minimal, any kind of accidents that were not, they were notable because they came through 911. But other than that, there's been no major wrecks since 2009, which was a fatality prior to the change of the intersection. Like I said, I got family myself. We all travel it, as well as friends that travel the road. And, I just don't think that as far as the safety aspect of which has been talked about, which is obviously, some of you may travel the road as well when you go through the area. But as far as that, like I said, I spent 20 years there, and I've got my family on. I wouldn't want to see nobody here, as well as any of you or your family, in an accident either. But as far as the road, if you ever travel to the end of Oregon Church Road, it's not, that end is not the dangerous part of getting hit. If they pulled on a 152, I would say it would be a very dangerous entrance and exit of the store. But the end of Oregon Church Road, you're talking, what, 300 feet to the end of the intersection. If anybody's going 55 mile an hour at the end of that intersection, they're going to have an accident regardless of who they hit coming out of the store. So as far as that goes, you know, the intersection itself, and you know, a lot of people feel the way it's going to hurt other businesses. Well, you take, you know, I live close to Cheeseman's. What they sell at Dollar General is not going to make a huge impact on as like yard stuff, Cheeseman's, Kurt's, even Kurt's. And I support all of them. I go to Kurt's on a regular basis. I go to Cheeseman's, Sifford's. I'm really good friends with the owner, Wayne Trexler, of Yard Stuff. And to my knowledge, none of those business owners are against this project. They're all for it and agree. So, you know, as far as the traffic side of it, I don't see a major difference, because most people that's going to be going to this store are going to live in the area. They're traveling that road every day, whether it's to go to the Dollar General, go to work, or to go to pick up their child from school. So, you know, there's not going to be a huge change. People that's going to that store are people that already live there. They're traveling the road regardless. So bringing additional traffic in, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference on the traffic flow to make it a more of a dangerous situation. And of course, they're talking about making the buildings a lot more presentable, which is definitely going to make it less of an eyesore. I have myself, my family have no problem. And I mean, I've talked to numerous people through the neighborhood, and I don't really know personally anyone that's against it, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that is, but I personally don't know anyone that lives, like I say, all the surrounding businesses that would be affected by it. I've never heard no negative. I've even talked to several of them and heard no negative comments. So on that aspect of it, like I said, I really want to state, I know someone had asked about the fatality, if they had to have so many fatalities for an intersection. That's exactly what it is. I think it used to be 3. The last fatality was in 2009, was an undocumented Hispanic had killed a lady in 2009. I was personally there at that accident on the fire department. But other than that, there's been, like I say, no major other wrecks since 2009. And that was prior to the new intersection, which has really slowed down a lot of the accidents, which it is a bad intersection. I'm not going to say it ain't. Like I said, I travel it 7 days a week. It is a little bit screwed up an intersection to get in and out of. But as far as the accident rate and what it's going to change by this coming, I don't feel there's going to be any change, because the people that's going to it, as myself and anybody else, already live there. They're already traveling the road. It's not going to bring extra people in as much as what the appearance is of thinking it will. And I mean, that's just my opinion, but that's all I got to say about it.
All right, thank you very much. Next. Welcome.
Hey, I'm Penny Kennedy. I live at, well, actually I own land at 165 Oregon Church Road, which is exactly beside the property. The driveway that everybody talks about, where the driveway to this property would be, I pulled in and out of for 20 years. And I never had trouble getting in and out of the driveway. I mean, yeah, if you stop and you pay attention to the traffic coming, you can get in and out of it. I've lived there all my life. I own land on both sides of the property, on 152 and on Oregon Church Road. I'm all for it. I think it would be nice to have something close by that you didn't have to drive all the way to Rockwell when you needed something. And just like the gentleman said, years ago, the wrecks were a whole lot more than they are now. I mean, when we were growing up, I remember laying in bed at night, you could hear, it would be like, well, there's another one. You know, you could hear them. It was always, you just knew you could, there was wrecks constantly. You don't hear that anymore. The wrecks are not near as bad. They're not as often. So, I mean, I really, like I said, I've lived there all my life, plan on being there the rest of my life, and I'm actually looking forward to it.
All right,
So,
thank you very much.
thank you.
Hi, welcome.
Hey, thank you. My name is Trudy Davis, and I live at 6325 Highway 152 East, and it is actually right beside where the building will be. I have no problem with it coming there because I think it'd be nice to have something a little bit closer. And, you know, I know that people are snickering about having to drive 2.5 miles to, you know, to Rockwell. Well, it's not only driving the 2.5 miles to Rockwell, but when you get to Rockwell, the places that are at Rockwell, you have 10 times more risk of getting in an accident driving through Rockwell than you do stopping at the Dollar General. You know what I mean? And as far as the other businesses around there, you know, we have a gas station, and there's a little convenience store down the road, but nothing that you could actually go to if you needed, you know, flour, butter, something frozen, drinks, whatever. And I think it would be, you know, nice to have it there. All the land that is directly around that is all family land. There's no, you know, the people that have spoken, they live on down the roadway. Ours connects to every bit of that, all around on every side. Anything else? Yeah, the social media, you know, we've read a lot on that because, of course, you know, we try to keep up on what's going on with it. You know, and everybody is all for if you put, like, a Taco Bell there, or a Burger King, or Chick-fil-A, or, you know, a restaurant, something like that. It's just that they're more against Dollar General, and I don't really get that. So it's not actually like the deal about something's going to be put there. It's what's being put there, more so than, you know, it would be fine if it was a restaurant. It would be fine if it was something else. Target, I think, is one of the big things that they've said, you know, put a Target there, put a Walmart there, put, you know. But I don't know. I look forward to it being there because I can walk out my back door and go to the store, and I don't have to drive at all. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next. Hi, welcome.
Hello. My name is Carolyn Waller. I live at 9325 Fisher Road, which is up the other way from where the Dollar General proposed site will be. I wouldn't want a Taco Bell there either. I wouldn't want a Wendy's or anything like that there. That is a dangerous corner. And until there's more deaths, they won't put a stoplight. Crescent Road at the other end from where I am just got a stoplight a few years ago. They redone the whole intersection there and put a stoplight after 2 more people got killed, a husband and wife at different times, going to Food Line. So this is a dangerous intersection. There are so many new schools that's built up in Rockwell and so many housing developments that have been built up there. Traffic is horrendous. I sit at Fisher Road going out to get on to 152, sometimes 10 or 15 minutes just to get out of my driveway. I complained to my husband about it. He said, oh, you just think it's traffic. I said, no. You leave in the morning at 7:45. Don't leave at 7:30. Leave at 7:45. You'll see. So that morning, I intentionally made him late, and he went out that way. He told me that evening, he said, I sat in the driveway 15 minutes. I said, don't tell me. He said, I got to the end of the road, Fisher Road, and I sat 15 more minutes. I said, don't tell me. I do it every day. I plan my doctor appointments around the traffic. It's horrendous. And there's a lot of other people that feel the same way. We've all signed that petition. I don't understand why you need a Dollar General every 5 miles down the road. Sounds kind of greedy to me. All the other little businesses around there are, like he said, individually owned. They do a little bit of a business. They give back to the community. But Dollar General is going to be different. A couple times I went up and down the road, and I noticed a lot of the Dollar Generals. There's only 2 in Salisbury, you know. There's going to be 3 in Rockwell. every 5 miles down the road. So I took some pictures of some of the Dollar Generals. Most of them are like this. They're sitting back off the road. They're not at intersections. They're where you can just pull right into them. They're way back off the road. Well, you want me to pass these pictures around to you? They're like I said, they're mostly off to themselves, not around other businesses, not around other stores. This one I think is 2. They're back off the road, and that's where they need to keep them. Back off the road, back off the intersections. And like I said, I live on 152, on Fisher Road off of 152, right in front of Grace Bible Church. I know you probably know where that's at. Well, I'll be able to see the Dollar General from my kitchen window. And as far as the trucks they're talking about at Boss Tune-Up over there, I hardly ever see those trucks go in and out. And I can see them really good from my kitchen window. So I don't know what the issue is with the trucks. But I, for one, am against getting another Dollar General. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Is there anyone else? Welcome.
My name is Levi Voros. I live at 6225 Highway 152, and I would just like to say I'm for it. We plan on building a house right beside it, and me and my wife have no problem living right beside it.
And what's your last name?
Voros.
Can you spell your last name?
Voros.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you related to the applicant?
I'm the seller.
You're the seller?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Do we have anyone else? State your name.
My name is Debbie Barnhart Basinger, and I live at 325 Victoria Street in Salisbury. My daughter lives on Oregon Church Road, so I'm out there visiting with her. And I'm not going to talk about traffic. It's a danger. I'm just going to tell you, it's a dangerous intersection. It is. I'm sure you all are probably aware of it. But what I would like to ask this board is, what do you want your county to look like in 10 years? Think about this. Do you want a Dollar General every 2.5 miles? Or people are out driving in the county. What do you want your county to look like? Do you want one in downtown Salisbury? Do you want a Dollar General every 2 miles in Salisbury? That's my point. I hope our counties stay rural. I hope when I'm driving through the county, I don't have to look over and see a Dollar General every 2 miles. And, I just think they should get the one running in Rockwell a little bit better than before they open another store. I wouldn't open another store if my store wasn't running correctly, and especially that close. But thank you for consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? Welcome. Good.
I'm pretty much just going to repeat. I'm
your
Shelley
name?
Voros.
Okay.
I live at 210 Sternbridge Drive. There isn't a problem with something being built there. The deal is I just don't want the Dollar General there. I myself will be going to that Dollar General if it is built. It's more convenient for me because I do live farther down the road. They were talking about it being a mom and pop's. That would be all fine and well. It may or may not be a mom and pop's, but it's not the fact that something would be there, it's just what it is. And that's what I've got to say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I've got a question. Would my wife be able to give me her 3 minutes? Concede her time to me?
Right on time limit.
Okay. If you want to come back for round 2.
Just a couple small points. Do I need to come all the way?
Yeah, because it's being videotaped.
It may take me a second.
That's all right. We've got all night.
All right. Well, you take that 3-minute cap off, I'll keep you here. Put it on.
You have 1 minute. I'm kidding. Yeah. We're not including drive time. You take your time.
Is that good?
Yes.
Okay, again, I'm Justin Smart.
Would your wife raise her hand? You consent your 3 minutes over to him? Is that the only thing you're giving over to him? Is your 3 minutes at the moment? Depends on how well he does with.
This is recorded, it's legal, right? So if
you're on the spot here, buddy.
Okay.
So,
a couple of points. The term underserved was used again after I spoke, and again, that's somebody's opinion. You know, I don't feel that we're underserved in the area. The numbers and the traffic, you know, is only going to increase from here. So people saying how many, how dangerous, you know, it's just going to be more cars in the future. There's 2 housing developments being built in the area, which is going to add to traffic. We're not saying that the store itself will add traffic. It will congest the traffic that's already there. And we know that will increase, so the congestion will increase. It was also said that, as far as I know, the other business owners are for it. That is false. The battery store we spoke to personally, we know that Cheeseman's is against it. We know that Siffords is against it. We know that Kurtz is against it. And this is either firsthand or from the person who heard it themselves. And the social media, people saying what they would rather have there, that's just fun talk. You know, personally, I don't want to see a business there for several reasons, and I've contacted most of you individually with different issues because I knew my 3 minutes would be up soon. But the talk about let's have a Chick-fil-A, let's have another restaurant, you know, that's just pipe dreams. The petition was, we do not want a Dollar General. It could have just said, we don't want anything, and we would have gotten just as many signatures. It's not that we're vilifying Dollar General. So I believe that's all I've got. So I'll save my minute and a half for later.
did you bring any other family members that?
Yeah.
I mean, you want to just stay up there?
That'll be a surprise.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
How did he do? Is he okay? Yeah. All right. Okay. I think you're okay. You can go home. All right. Is there anyone else?
Might offer some time back to the applicant.
Anyone else? Hey, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jordan Kress. I live at 450 Oregon Church Road. It's about a 0.3 of a mile down the road from your proposed site. You know, Justin and all the other people this afternoon have said it all for us. It's not an anticipated thing for the majority of us. My grandparents, they're in their 80s. They live next door to us. They can't drive very well. The intersection is dangerous, and their driveway sits on a hill. My grandma cannot see, and I'd hate for her to pull out and get hit coming at that part of the hill. And I took her to get her hair done the other day, and we sat at the intersection for 15 minutes. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 15 minutes. That's ridiculous. But like everybody else has said, you've heard that part, but it's not a thing that we want. And I'm one of the ones that did the petition. We had over 500 signatures of local people in the county. And that right there should tell you it's not wanted. It's because of the stuff that's in there is a low quality item. And it's just like, I'd really go to Walmart or Food Line or whatever. And like I also said too, the same thing with being family owned. The rest of the joints around there are all family owned. That's true. And I can verify for at least one of the businesses, like Justin said, Steve Sifford is my cousin, and I've talked to him about it, and he is not for it. So that's at least one business, whether that matters or not. But I just wanted to voice my opinion. I'm not for it either. I really not.
All right.
So thank you all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, going once. I'm going to 3. Going twice. All right. So would the applicant like to respond to anything?
Thank you. I just want to make a couple points in rebuttal. At least for one specific property owner, you just heard the name Stephen Sifford. I don't know if there's more than one Stephen Sifford, but Stephen Sifford that owns property adjacent to the Voros property is selling property under contract for development of this site. So that Stephen Sifford is supportive of this project. I think clearly there's significant traffic count on Highway 152. It is a dangerous road. Whether or not this site is developed into some other fashion, whether retail is put there, is not going to change that. I believe that the arguments that have been presented related to traffic and the dangers of this intersection are pretextual, because what we really hear is this undercurrent of not wanting this store here. The DOT looked at this site, and the entrance to the site is on Oregon Church Road, which is not a dangerous road as compared to Highway 152. The presence of this driveway permit is not going to make this intersection any more dangerous. What you really heard is this undercurrent of attacking this particular proposed development. It's a retail development. Whether or not it's wanted there, that will ultimately be up to the marketplace to decide. Whether or not it fits the zoning requirements is for the county commission to decide, and we think that it is a square peg going into a square hole, and we would respectfully request the approval of the rezoning.
Thank you, counsel. Anyone else? Going once? Oh, boy. Here we... Okay. Thank you and welcome.
How are y'all?
We're well.
My name's Jeff Poston. I got property on Oregon Church Road. Don't have a house there, but I just want to... Not going to talk about none of the other that's been talked about. Just want to rebuttal the last statement that was made about Steve selling property for that. It's not, and I would like to be on record, that I think the board is a whole lot more aware of what goes on now than what they did before, but that piece of property has been in my family for many, many years. It's part of like a 50-acre estate. That road's been moved 3 times, and the reason Steve has that little corner was from the last move that the fireman talked about when they changed the intersection. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Going once, going twice. Here it comes. All right. So thank you. You guys did a great job. I wouldn't say on both sides. Hopefully we're a united community. But thank you for being kind. That makes all this much easier. And so now we will, as the commissioners, will discuss this we may have some questions that we want to ask. We'll ask those questions, and then we'll get to a point to where the sun's coming up tomorrow, and we'll decide we're going to take a vote. So commissioners will open it up for discussion.
I had a question.
Shane, can you put your PowerPoint back up there and get back to that screen we were looking at? There you go. That's what I want.
I don't know who gave us the petition. I'm not sure where that come from, but I saw a lot of different addresses from all over the place. So I was curious how all of those were collected. Like there's some Kannapolis addresses.
Yeah, I had the same question. There were. Well, there's Salisbury addresses and
Gold Hill,
Kannapolis.
Can I speak for a minute?
Yeah, come on forward.
I live at 285 Oregon Church Road, Salisbury.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I mean, I saw one that was over off of Highway 70.
That is a mixed neighborhood. I've got a Salisbury address, a Rockville phone number, and I tell people I live at the end of Faith Road. So it's a screwed up area.
You throw popcorn out the window on the way home, on the way?
4th of July, yes, sir.
All right.
If somebody had a question about how the numbers and addresses were received, is that what you want me to come up with?
Well, I think those of us that thumb through this, I mean, there's Mount Ulla,
Did you go door to door, or did you have this in one place and people came through and signed it?
They were originally taken to a few local businesses, specifically the battery store, who we spoke to the owner, and he said he was against it. He would be glad if we left it there for people, and also we dropped it off at Hertz Variety. And from there, people took it upon themselves to copy it, take it other places. So it was kind of a word-of-mouth campaign. We did not go door to door. I would have loved to have gone into the 2.5-mile radius that the proposed people were going to be shopping there, but we didn't have the time or the ability, really. But it was a word-of-mouth thing. We posted, go to these local businesses if you wish to, and sign the petition to have this stop. Some people would take a blank copy and take it with them for their family, you know, or if they knew other areas where it could be signed. So I was just responsible for leaving it at those two places, and it disseminated from there.
Okay, thank you.
Hey. We're not going to get into that. All right. Hold on. We're done. All right, we're done with all that. Okay. So this is our time now. Okay. We'll be respectful, but this is our time. So. All right. Mike, did you have you good with that?
Where's Shane? Another question for Shane. I'm just curious as to what the shoulder width is, both on 152 and Oregon Road.
I do not know. I mean,
Okay.
the best is the
Asking you all these
images
DOT
here.
questions.
Here's pictures.
Oh, okay, thanks. That helps.
Oregon Church.
Shane, there's 50 foot of right of way on Oregon Church Road. So the state could improve that access if needed. And there's 100 foot across 152.
Could you put the picture back up on, of 152, please, Shane? Okay, so it is posted at 45, and there is no shoulder. Okay.
Ma'am, can I speak on behalf of that?
Yeah. We're closed to the public hearing.
Shane, while you're up here, a couple of people talked about the realignment, I guess, of the two roads there. When did that take place? Do you know?
I believe it was between '02 and '06, if I'm not mistaken.
So all this traffic data is after that latest realignment?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Other questions, discussion?
So, Mr. Chairman, since the, I guess they talked since the planning board, they've talked about some different options. So, and they showed 6 here. Is that, I mean, how does that work? Are they saying which one do we like, or what is all that?
Yeah, so that you all know exactly how this came about is you know, we have had requests over the past several years for sites to be approved for Dollar General. And I'll just say it, Debbie Barnhart said, you know, what do you want your county to look like? And if there's anything that we're trying to do as a board is to get our community to step up and to start looking better. And so after the planning board passed this 8-0, we knew that we would get to this evening. And so I picked up the phone and I called Dollar General representatives. And I said, you all need to step up your stores in Rowan County. We've approved the last one that looks like, you know, the old model. And so they said that's not a problem. So there's really nothing fishy going on from Dollar General's side where they said, well, we know we're going to have trouble. So we told them that the Dollar Generals that are considered from this point on in Rowan County are going to look different. So that was not them coming to us and offering an offering. It was the county saying we need to step up. And they were, within 24 hours, came back to us with some new renderings, which we were very appreciative of. So this is not just a Rockwell thing. This will be something that if they want to continue to build in Rowan County, that's what will happen. Okay? Is that fair to say, Mr. Amazon? Okay. Is that what you were asking? Who was asking? You? Okay.
I second that.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of the 6 that I prefer. I don't know how this gets decided. I think there are some that are still I don't favor, don't like. I think there are some that are very attractive that I think I will say that we sat right here a few years ago and we had the same discussion about one that went right up the street from Commissioner Pierce and myself, and we had reservations as well. I guess we're at the point I'll go ahead and give my opinions. So this discussion is not new to us. This discussion happens whenever there's a zoning request that's being made. And so we go through these same questions. Commissioner Pierce and I had concerns. I wish, frankly, that we had asked for a different store back then than what we got. But they built one and it's been very successful. We live probably 7 miles out of town. And so we've got a convenience store and gas station right across the street from this. It's not hurt them a bit. They're doing fine. The question of traffic was a question 2 or 3 years ago on behalf of Mr. Pierce and myself. Would this create issues? It was put right on a corner, just like this was. And I'm not aware of any incidents that it's created. We've had a big discussion about traffic. This is not an attraction. This is not going to attract folks down 152 that live in Granite Quarry. It's not going to bring them from Cleveland to come out there. This is going to, folks coming down 152 are, it's going to be on the route. I don't see this increasing traffic. And it's not like this is a new stop, a new turn that's being created that's going to create additional traffic. I mean, you've already got Oregon Church Road is there. Now I've gone out there and sat. I went again this morning, took video. I went toward Rockwell, turned around, drove back, drove through the intersection, back through and back through again, drove up Faith Road and back, Oregon Church Road, back and forth. I took videos, I took pictures. You know, this is not the first business there. So the issue of, well, we're kind of breaking ground here in a residential area by putting businesses, you know, I can't argue that. You know, it's effective for you guys to send us emails. I mean, we appreciate that. And I spoke to several of you. I called you on the phone. We had conversations, very, very informative. I heard a lot of statements of we don't need that. We've already got one 3 miles this way, or we have one 5 miles that way. And the fact is, that really isn't any of our decision to make. It's not this board's decision to decide whether there's enough retail opportunities. Good heavens, think about mattress stores. I mean, who would think that we would need additional mattress stores? But there are folks that know more than we do. And if a company makes a bad business decision, then that corporation learns something from that. So if 2.5 or 3 miles is too close to what the other location is, and this location were to not make money, then that company is going to learn to not do something stupid like that again. But unfortunately, we're not the ones to decide where the market goes. Frankly, if Dollar General wants to put 5 Dollar Generals side by side by side by side by side, they are welcome in this free market economy to do that. Now, that's going to be a bad decision in my mind, but I can't tell them not to invest that money. Now, we're not talking about strip clubs or something that takes away from the culture or presents some type of poor example to the community. So the idea, and by the way, I'm coming into this, I want you to know, with a completely open mind. Now, when I say that, I want to say there's some things I'm closed-minded about. I'm closed-minded to the statement of we don't need that, because you don't decide that and I don't decide that. The market decides that. So I am closed-minded to that. It's not a new traffic pattern. And the idea of, you know, you're going to have a new road right at the end of Oregon Church Road. The stop sign is coming right up to that. So I don't see speed as being an issue there. Someone said there's new schools and housing developments go there. Something tells me that the folks who are investing here probably know that. So for them, this is a good investment because it will create additional revenues for them. Someone sent me an email and they said this will only create 9 jobs. I don't know that. I don't know what their hirings are going to be. But that was kind of looked down on. And I would say to you, be careful about that, because those 9 jobs will be important to those 9 people. So I wanted to make sure to say that. I think something should happen on 152 as far as the traffic goes. Someone gave us a chart, and I was emailed a chart, and it was provided for us tonight. And folks are exceeding the speed limit there if it's 55 miles an hour. Well, what is it? Is it 55 or 45? 45. It's 45? Oh, is that what that big 45 sign means?
It's 45 over 152, it's 55 on Oregon Church Road.
I got you. So, so I don't know what DOT does to look at the traffic there. Again, we're not introducing the first turn off of 152, where for a mile one direction and a mile another direction, it's just wide open, just speed right through. This is, if the majority of folks that are here tonight believe that this is a dangerous intersection, to me, the more things that go on here, the more it slows people down, it tends to me. That's what we've experienced on 601, I believe, is by adding, there's a church being built right across the street from Dollar General there. And by the way, you know, my wife loves having Dollar General. That is between us and Salisbury. It saves a lot of time. So the market will determine if this is a good or bad idea. There's already quite a bit of commercial business in that area. It is a node, and a node is named that for a reason, because that's centrally where business will take place. Someone I spoke to said, well, it's not environmentally friendly to knock a house down. I don't know about that, but if there's 510 vehicles a day that will be in there, I would think it would be environmentally friendly to cut their drive time down from having to go to Rockwell to where they'd be closer and not have to drive as much. And certainly that's helpful. I really have come into tonight with an open mind, being willing to be convinced one way or the other. And I've not heard anything yet that would tell me that would make me want to vote against this so far.
Mr. Chairman, you've covered most of the things that I was going to talk about. We have to have a quasi-judicial hearing here, and that all refers back to we have to do things and make decisions with more than our opinions about whether we like Dollar General or not. And we as a board have to be careful about trying to control people's property. We all want to be able to, if we own an acre somewhere and somebody wants it more than we do, we want to be able to sell that without the government stepping in and trying to have a hand in it. It's always bad when that happens. If it had been proven tonight that Dollar General caused some additional problems at that intersection, that intersection is going to, that particular corner is going to be commercial in some way in the future, whether it's done now or whether it's done 2 years down the road. Every other piece around there is commercial property on 152 right there. And everything from Sifford Surface Station up there to the truck repairs there and the garden shop, all of that is retail, and I can't find any reason that this corner lot shouldn't be that way. So I just don't I haven't been given any reason to think that we are causing anything dangerous at this particular intersection by letting a retail customer, and you're right, the community out there will decide whether that is something that they want or not. And we have turned down Dollar General when they were out close to a school up there, and the road was very hilly, and you couldn't see people that'd be parking, and folks were parking on the side of the road picking up kids at school. So we don't approve all of these. So I hope you don't think that that we're just rubber stamping anything that comes through here. But we do thank you all for coming out tonight and voicing your opinion in this.
We have a go at it. Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that when I was on the planning board is when we worked on the committee to approve the Eastern Land Use Plan. And I want you to understand that the Eastern Land Use Plan is a guideline. It's not written in stone that this is what has to happen. That's what this board is for right here, is for us to decide, is this beneficial for our citizens or is it not? My way of thinking is when I've got this many people contact me and tell me this is not what I want, then I was elected to serve these people, so I've got to listen to what they're telling me. There's some that's going to say, yes, well, I do want it. That's great. Go the 2.5 miles up the road then. I just don't think this is a good fit for this community, and I've not heard enough convincing evidence to make me think any different. So I can't support this particular zoning area. Commissioner Green's right. We've turned down 2 of these. And both times, citizens came out and said, this is not what we want. Even though the Eastern Land Use Plan was in both of them, said that, yes, this was acceptable. Like I said, that is a guideline. It is not what you go by to just say, yes, we're going to do this. Now, if I'd have had a room full of people saying, I'm welcome there, come right on, I might have a different opinion, but that's not what I've been bombarded with all weekend during the ball game season. So when I'm getting phone calls while I'm trying to watch basketball and I'm getting emails blowing up my computer, then I'm like, you know, these people don't want this. And if they don't want it, that's what they elected me to do, is to make sure they don't end up with it. So I'm not going to support this, and that's just going to be my vote.
Well, here we are, another Dollar General. If I said before, where I live, there's a few Dollar Generals. I do shop at the Dollar General, and I think it's very convenient. An example, but I also shop at my local, the local stores we have there. I can tell you that, you know, recently my daughter was sick and needed to get some chicken noodle soup, and it was like $1.79 at the little store, and it was $1 at the Dollar General. But I bought the one at the little store that was closer to my house. That's a little community-owned. So there's places for both chains and community. You know, when we look at what we have to do, one of the things that we always look at is spot zoning. And when you look at the map, it's clearly not spot zoning here because you've got so much CBI there. It's already there in the area. Probably, you know, a lot has been said about the traffic. I'm not an expert on vehicles and how many travel through the day. Maybe Chapter 20 law I know a little bit about, but I don't know a lot about this. Now, DOT said they gave a permit for it. Of course, DOT keeps approving roundabouts, so I don't know how smart DOT is. But, you know, it's not easy for us to sit up here and when you have citizens come up here against it, but we had several tonight that's for it. I know the other ones, they were mostly all against the ones there, and they were a little bit different. I think the last one was going to go out kind of an intersection where all there was in a boat repair place was the only thing out there. So it's never easy. It's never a slam dunk. I don't think any of us maybe had our minds made up because you never know what the citizens have to say, and sometimes they can spark some ideas that you didn't think of. But just looking at the intersection there, I think long term that intersection does need to be realigned, and it's not going to get a stoplight, I know, until it's realigned, until they meet each other. When or if that ever happens, I mean, that's above us here, but I think we, you know, are encouraging DOT to go ahead and do that. So, like I said, I'm not really for or against Dollar General. I go to Dollar General. There's 2 close to my house. They do seem like they're popping up everywhere, so there does seem to be some sort of, not just this group, but other groups that seem to have something against the Dollar Generals. But like I said, I'll support it just because it's not spot zoning. and DOT approved the cut there, and I do agree with Jim that, you know, when someone has owns a piece of property and they want to do something with it, I think if you can let people have their property rights, then you should. Now, I understand that the people right closest to it said they support it and some other folks don't. So like I said, it's never easy when you have a divided group, but I guess that's why why we're elected, to make the harder choices sometimes.
Well, I actually did have my mind made up when I came in, and I was going to support denial. But I got to tell you, listening to all of the facts, and I actually know this intersection very well. I'm a retired pastor, and I'd go out to the rural churches all over, and so going down Oregon Church Road was one of those places I went. You know, I'm also a retired farmer, and I don't like spot zoning either, but like Mike said, this isn't spot zoning. I didn't realize how many different businesses were actually at this intersection. Do I like the fact that this is where Dollar General has chosen to put their store? I'm not thrilled, but our rules and regulations say that it's an okay thing. And at this point, because this is a very much commercial district right here, I'm going to have to join the chairman and vote for this change in zoning.
All right, any other comments? All right, so we have before us, we will need to adopt some statements of reasonableness and consistency. So a statement of consistency would be Z03-19 is consistent with the Eastern Land Use Plan. Adjacent properties are zoned CBI. Applicant is installing a 6-foot opaque fence along both adjoining. But that's old news, though, isn't it? Shane?
It's the fence and the trees.
It's in the trees. It's
Yes.
just the fence.
Applicant is installing 6-foot opaque fence and tree buffering.
Evergreen hedgerow. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question now. Is there going to be a sign out front, or is it just going to be the sign on the building?
It'll probably be with one of those tall pylon signs.
Tall?
Can
Well,
we talk-
relatively speaking.
Okay.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
That, the building renderings,
Can it-
all
can it-
those.
Can it be a ground mounted? A monument sign? And it be landscaped?
And we're really going to want to talk to you about the facade.
How do we decide on the facade?
I think we presented, 6 renderings?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want us to pick the one we like the best? Can you flip to them? You gave a glance at Jay. Jay, keep us out of trouble here.
You're talking about conditions
Yeah.
that you'll affix to the motion to approve or not approve, but motion to approve. So if you want to get through if this impacts your consistency, then you can address it now. But if you want to wait, we go ahead and get through
Can we go ahead and do the consistency, but then when we vote, put conditions on it?
Yeah, so you do your consistency and your reasonableness, and then when there's a motion to approve, it would be approval with conditions, and that's when you insert the conditions.
All right, statement of consistency would be Z03-19 is consistent with Eastern Rowan Land Use Plan. Adjacent properties are zoned CBI. Applicant is installing 6-inch opaque fence and Leland cypress buffering along both adjoining property lines, and the square footage is limited to 9,100 square feet. I make that as a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Statement of reasonableness in accordance with Section 21-362J of the Rowan County zoning ordinance. The property is adjacent to CBI zone property. It's located in Area 3. A community node highway business is encouraged along East North Carolina 152. The applicant is providing 6-foot opaque fencing along with Leland cypress buffering along adjoining property lines. I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you. So then, do we have a motion to approve Z-0319 with the conditions of, and let's just stop there, and so I sent these to you all. That's 3 of them. Do you want to man this? And my opinion is the top 2 look too much like what they're doing now. I personally like the bottom one because it has more, it does away with the metal completely.
Yep.
You have more glass on it, and more well, you have windows in it where the other, you have more windows in it. Go on to the next 3. The facade on that, I'm giving you my opinion. I don't like the points on that. The one in the middle in China Grove, I don't find attractive at all. The Simpsonville is really quite a bit like, if you'll go back one, quite a bit like the Buford, Georgia, but you just end up with additional awnings and more glass and brick, and so I'm just telling you my opinion. I like the Buford, Georgia rendering.
I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Mike says, I don't care.
That's fine.
Either number 3 or number 6, either one. I'll vote for either one of those.
All right, so is a consensus the third one? Third one okay? Okay. So we have a motion to approve Z-0319 with the condition that the Buford, Georgia model be used, that we move to a monument sign instead of a pole sign with landscaping.
I second that if that's the motion.
What was stated on this bottom rendering was these are actually faux windows, not functional. These are actual windows here. If it's beneficial to the board, if you prefer, you could require a facade detail elevation plan and see that back, conditionally approve this, see that, it doesn't require another hearing, receive it, and move on, just for additional clarification.
And the same with the sign then, too.
I'll make that part of the motion. All right, so that's a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your patience, for your kindness. I hope with some conditions, it does bring a little bit more positiveness. I am struck, let me say this as we leave this discussion. I'm struck with the statement of what do we want the community to look like. There's no one up here that is not thinking about that. And I had a conversation with Mr. Amazon and said, listen, no disrespect to Dollar General. We want better here in Rowan County. That happens when Rowan County gets better. As our economic demographics improve, companies will want to come here that will provide different services, whether it's this type of retail or different. So things are improving in Rowan County, and with these changes, I hope that this will end up being a success both for the community and for Dollar General. So thank you.
Can I just add one more thing? As you look at remodeling any of the older stores, I would really encourage you to make them look like what we would like to have. And also, I noticed too on this Simpsonville, and I don't know if this rendering is, as far as landscaping, is what you had in, what's actually there in Simpsonville, but I would say that to soften up the building, the outside of the building, and make it much more welcoming, I think that would really, really help.
All right, moving on to item number 7. An RFP for consulting services for central permitting. Manager Church.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for qualifications for consultants to look at our building inspections, environmental health, environmental management, fire marshal and planning departments, and look how they can be more efficient and work together. Basically, one thing those 5 different departments have in common is that they're involved with the inspection and permitting process. This isn't saying that we're going to hire a consultant. This is just asking for qualifications. Once the qualifications come in, the director of building inspections, environmental health, Greg Green, who works in environmental management as a soil and erosion department, and Chris Solis from EMS and Ed Muir have expressed an interest of being on the committee to look through the proposals and select, make a recommendation to the board for the consultant that they feel like would do a good job. At that point in time, the board would authorize the manager to enter into a contract with the consultant. By the way, we're getting ready to completely switching subjects, but just we did get the contract for the consultant for 911 reduced by $5,000.
All right.
You asked for that a couple of meetings ago. Haven't signed it yet, but we're working towards that. Back to this, the board will have to approve that. Then you'd authorize me or the chairman to sign the contract, and then the consultant would come in and make a recommendation. And then the board of commissioners most likely would be involved in implementing the recommendation. I think the personnel policy allows me to do some reorganization, but something of this magnitude the board would have to have some input. So with that, if the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Let's hold on 1 second, all right? We okay? All right, just making sure. Okay, this item, been a lot of conversation about this over the last several years, and the way I would characterize this item is this is really a call to excellence. Everyone up here believes that Rowan County is on the verge of some significant positive growth in this community. And one thing that will happen is we're going to have a lot of requests for permits, inspections, planning. And so the folks that we have in these departments are second to none. But we do have kind of an antiquated system where everyone operates in their own departments, kind of on, we call them silos. And so what this is a call to is to rethink everything that we do from the time an applicant walks in the door to the time of the ribbon cutting. And so there is so much that this board and this community is working to improve. And some of those things will take a long time to do. Some things we really don't have much control over. Some things we have total control over. And those things that this board and this community can control, we believe we should be committed to being the very best in North Carolina or the region in doing. And this is one of those things. As people come in the door to say, we want to build in your community, we want them to leave with a feeling that they have never had such a good experience in investing in a community as they have in Rowan County. We can do that with the folks that we have because we have great folks. Ed Muir and Shane and his staff are the finest that I've ever seen, and the same goes for Thomas O'Kelly and his folks. Our folks and Deborah, our fire marshal, environmental, all of them have to be part of this team that makes sure that the folks that are investing in our community have a positive experience, so positive that they will leave here raving about the experience they had in Rowan County. It's not always been that way. And great improvement has been made over the years. But as we think forward to the possibility of a one-stop shop, a one-stop experience, we can cram everyone into one room, and that doesn't change much if the system, if the process doesn't change. And so this isn't about where they'll end up location-wise. This is about the process of walking in the building, clear up to the ribbon cutting. So I am very appreciative to the directors that are positive behind this, and for the manager for pushing forward on this. And hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have a new process in place that will put us way out ahead of the competition, because this is something we can certainly be the best at. So that's really what's going on. And so this RFP is for Aaron to go out and receive RFPs, and then we'll have control over that and decide what direction to go. If that makes sense. All right. Yep, so we need a motion for the RFP for consulting services for central permitting.
So moved.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Financial reports.
I just received an email from Carolyn, and somehow their reports have been deleted. So I'm just going to talk through them, okay?
That's what that was.
Conspiracy.
Have a chalkboard or something where you can draw maps?
I wish I did. So on cumulative revenue comparisons, through February of this fiscal year, we have collected or posted to the general ledger $106 million. A year ago, that was $103.8 million. So our revenues are up more than $2 million, which is good because our budget also increased for revenues. For 18 and 19, in both years, we have posted to the general ledger 74% of budget, so we're right on track. For expenditures, through February, we have posted $90 million. A year ago, it was $87.6 million. So that's up a roughly $2.5 million. A large portion of that is debt service. Some of that is salary with the cost of living increase. That is also, we are at 58% of budget. A year ago, we were at 57% of budget. Property taxes, we have collected 74 million. A year ago, we were at 72.7 million. So that's a $1.3 million increase in property tax collections. It's 92% of budget this year. It's 92% last year. And last would be sales tax. These are through November, and we have collected 11 million. In 2018, we had collected 9.9 million. That's a $1.1 million increase. So we're at 45% of budget. A year ago, we were at 43% of budget. So the property taxes so far have been very good this year.
So if I'm to understand what you're saying, the increase in revenues match the increase in expenditures as far as the additional amounts. So we're about even where we were last year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Well done. Carry on. All right, have budget amendments been provided for us? Motion to approve the
So
budget
moved.
amendment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, then I move that the board now enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 for attorney-client privilege communication regarding the Rowan Rescue Squad, and 143-318.11A3 for attorney-client privilege communication regarding tax administration foreclosures, and 143-318.11A1 to consider approval of the January 7th closed session minutes. And we will get started as soon as the room empties and the door closes.
I got to empty myself.
All right, so we're back out of closed session. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.